For more on the friendship between the U.S. and France, we're joined by Klisman Murati, founder of the Pareto Economics World Affairs Research Consultancy and the creator of the Global Power Index. Good to see you and welcome back. Let me start with what's happening in the mind of Macron, because he's here. The timing is interesting. What is he asking Biden to do?
Well, in times like this, with such heated geopolitical tensions, naturally, the first thing the allies will do is to better understand if they're on the same page on many important issues. Because with communication being so important, having meetings face-to-face is even more important. So I think the major thing that France is looking towards the US for is to understand if they're on the same page on geopolitical issues, on global development issues, and on issues in relation to inflation, which impact both players.
Give me an example. Let's start with the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, there's definitely talk of jobs. Some people are saying that, well, the United States are protectionist. Some people are saying that France is being a protectionist. Some people say Europe doesn't get the full benefit. Well, of course they don't, because it's a U.S. bill. Why would Europe get the benefit from any of it? What is Macron asking Biden to do?
I think Macron's position is very interesting from the way I analyze it, because he wants to portray himself, and he is in certain cases portraying himself as a leader in Europe. When it comes time to economic issues, it's very clear that Europe's future is tied in with America's future. So he's going to try to find his best voice, I guess, to speak to the US to get preferential treatment when it comes time to tax reductions or priority in certain aspects of trade that he's hoping France will secure, which will obviously help the French. So whether or not Biden agrees to this, I think you can't agree on something as important as trade relations after one meeting, but he'll put his case forward to Biden, and a series of talks will happen afterwards to see whether he will get these concessions.
Right, and to be fair, I am sure the lines of communications have been well opened between the United States and France prior to the conflict in Ukraine, and of course during the conflict to Ukraine. And one of those key topics has been the issue of energy. Winter is approaching. People are going to freeze to death. Whether you're Russian or Ukrainian, it's going to be a problem. The rest of Europe is dealing with all kinds of energy issues. That has got to be one of the top issues that Macron is perhaps asking for assistance or help from with President Biden. Is it not?
Well, I think even the framing of that question, saying he's asking for help, makes it seem as if he is a key leader in the negotiations. Now, that may be the case, but what we have to see is what have been the positive results that we have seen as a direct impact from Macron's leadership in this case. And I don't think you can say that there's been many. If you look at Turkey, for example, Turkey has managed to negotiate a sort of at least a break in tensions, which allowed Russian and Ukrainian exports out through the Black Sea. That wasn't Macron. That was Erdogan. So when it comes time to France's position, I think they haven't yet made it very clear as to what they will be bringing to the table, what leverage they provide, because if they're saying they provide leverage, we haven't seen any of that yet.
In fairness to Macron, there's been a number of times where he has spoken directly with President Putin regarding the conflict in Ukraine, and I don't want to say he played the role of peacemaker, but certainly the role of attempting to start that conversation. I mean, isn't that to his credit, and might that be a point of discussion if that's a channel of communication or a backdoor channel to Russia?
I think that's subtly saying that France is not sort of as powerful as the United States is, and I think that's fair to say that as the case. USA ranks #1 in our global power index, France ranks #10. But the fact that Macron is speaking with Putin and the fact that the US isn't speaking, I think at least subtly shows that the US has more to lose if they speak and nothing comes of it than if France were to speak and nothing would come of it, at least in sort of the public space as we see now. And actually having open lines of communication, Phil, is so important, especially during times of war. And I may be too harsh on Macron by saying he hasn't produced anything, but at least nothing public. Behind backdoor channels, yes, but we need to see some results at least coming into the new year.
What is something positive that might come out of this meeting? By the way, they're having dinner as we speak at the White House. What is something positive that could come out of this engagement and this visit here in Washington, D.C. that Macron will take back with him to Europe and France?
Well, again, it depends on who this is positive for. If we see something which is mutually positive for the both of them, I think agreeing on a strategy to help Ukraine, especially during this crisis time, and also moving forward with geopolitical tensions with Russia. So whether that's agreeing a mutual step forward in how they approach Russia, I think is probably going to be the biggest thing that they can both take away and bring back to France, because not only is that going to help the French, but it's going to reinforce in the eyes of the Europeans that France not only thinks about France, but also thinks about Europe if they claim to be the leader of it.
Yeah, the issues they are discussing certainly much bigger than either France or the United States alone. This is going to impact the rest of Europe and really potentially the whole world. Klisman, good to see you again. Thank you. Next up on our show, we'll have the latest economic figures out of China.